Hey guys, welcome to another healing commentary video. This time I'll be going over our Stone Legion General's mythic kill, and I'll be giving you guys some tips and tricks that I've learned during our mythic progression. So first I'm going to talk about the talents and soulbinds that I used. If you want to jump straight to the pull, go ahead. I'm going to leave a timestamp here at the screen. Click on that if you want to skip ahead. Starting with soulbinds, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. We've been running the same setup throughout pretty much 90% of progression, with the exception of sunking. Here on the endurance slot, it's really up to you. I prefer astral protection because Ankh is really nice during progression, the reincarnation. It can really save pulls, as you will see later in the kill video. I think it may have saved our kill. But yeah, if you prefer to use the earth elemental one, that's up to you. Refreshing waters is also fine. I think this is the slot that you can really afford to play around with, do whatever you want with. But these two, the two potency slots, are pretty much mandatory. Swirling currents is just too strong not to play right now. Same with tumbling waves, because it is amazing. If you get a reset, you get that intellect buff as well. It's not just about the primordial wave, it's also about the intellect buff that you get. So it's really important, because we want a high uptime on that intellect buff. Moving on to talents. In this fight, I took a very similar setup to what I usually do. Here, some people would take Unleash Life, and I think Unleash Life is great on this fight because there's a lot of spot healing that's needed. However, I prefer Torrent. It's really up to you, it's personal taste, but I think Unleash Life may be the better option if you really want to min-max. Again, it's up to you. You'll notice I'm running Windrush this time because we needed to fight back against the knockback effect, the winds from the skirmishers when they get low. And I also took Ancestral Protection Totem because not only does this fight have a lot of one-shot mechanics, like for example the Seismic Upheaval, but also some people will bleed out during the Goliath phase when the Goliath applies the Soul Taint debuff and no heals go through. Ankh Totem can really help, especially as you progress further and further into the fight. So let's jump into the fight. On the right, you'll see my ERT note with the damage events and the timers that we used, the cooldowns that we used for each damage event. On the bottom right are my ERT timers. Below my HP bar, where my mouse is, you'll see every single GCD that I use, every single spell that I use, so you can keep track of what I'm doing. So starting into the fight, we'll be doing the long strat. We'll wait for 3 sets of ads to spawn before pushing the boss into first intermission. I guess that's the OG strat. However, it doesn't really change much for healers, whether it's 2 sets of ads or 3. The healing is pretty much the same. Maybe you'll skip a crystallizer or 2, but the way you heal the fight, the way you approach the fight as a healer will pretty much be the same. So at the start, we're not taking any damage. You want to DPS as much as possible. And then you want to pay attention towards who's getting Wicked Blades and who's getting the debuff applied to them, because these are the people that will be taking damage. The rest of the raid will not take any damage whatsoever. So the healing requirement at the first part of the fight is pretty much non-existent. It's just healing certain people, only the people that have the debuff. Sure, if you use Spirit Link, you'll do raid-wide healing, but most of the time, you're really going to be focusing certain people. So that's why I said earlier, Unleash Life is great, because of that extra spot heal that you can use to save someone if they get low. It can really change things around. However, I don't think you really need it, as long as you Riptide people who have the debuff. As you can tell, I have it on my frames here. I can see who has the debuff and how many stacks. And that's very important heading later into the fight, because people with 2 or 3 stacks are going to require a lot of attention. And people who get both debuffs, so the bleed debuff and the heart rend, those are people that are going to need a lot of extra attention. But a good rule of thumb is to keep a Riptide ticking on them. If they're standing in your healing rain, they'll be perfectly fine. So yeah, you'll notice the frames are going insane, but every frame glow has a purpose. Red usually means they're taking damage from a big dot, so they will require extra healing or extra attention. For the heart rends, a very good rule of thumb is to apply at least 1 heal on them. If they get 1 Riptide or 1 healing wave, they will survive, right? So if you see someone ticking down from the heart rend dispel, give them 1 heal, and if someone else needs attention, go to the next person. However, if they're the only person low, of course, focus them. But with 1 heal, they'll usually be fine, they'll usually survive. And if they're standing in healing rain, again, they will be fine. We have 3 shamans, we have 3 healing rain sticking, so we rarely lost people really to the heart rend mechanics. But as long as you have at least 1 paladin and 1 discipline priest that can shield people or holy shock people, you'll be perfectly fine. Again, raid-wide damage is very low in this fight, so most of the time you're just going to be focusing certain people with your heals. Again, frame glows are super important, especially in this fight. You don't want to waste your heals on people that aren't going to be taking any damage whatsoever. So it makes sense to just focus the people that are getting low and pay attention to who's getting hit by what mechanic. I sat down to drink here, which was a mistake. I should not be drinking at this phase of the fight. I should be holding my drink for a bit later, but I was greedy. And I'll pay the price for that, as you will see. I don't think I'm going to be able to finish this drink. I'm going to have to stand up and start healing, because we get a heart rend really soon into the intermission. No, I did get lucky this time, but usually, yeah, and then you get the bombardments as well. But usually the healers will want to at least try to drink during this intermission, because if you drink now, this means you can also drink again later in the fight around the second intermission or around the end of the second intermission. So usually you want to get a drink in, ideally after you kill the Goliath, after people have delivered orbs, then you can maybe sit down and get a drink. But this is also important. When people pick up the orb, they get a big dot on them. So again, you want to be very smart with your riptides here. Try to riptide people that pick up the orbs, as you will see. After this crystallize, we get after this meteor soak, we'll start killing these ads, we'll start getting the orbs, and you'll see on my frames, people who glow red are people that are holding orbs. They'll have the debuff as well appear next to their name, they're glowing green. However, these people will need a hot on them because they're taking a lot of damage from holding that orb. And they will get also a bit of damage from the knockback effect that they get when they deliver the orb. So maybe one hot on them and they'll be fine. Make sure they're topped off before they get sent through the Warlock Gate to deliver the orb. And then now we want to start moving towards our safe spot. So we're gonna be ready with our Spirit Walker's Grace and make sure to place a healing rain there before the raid gets there, ideally. So yeah, here's my Spirit Walker's Grace. I'm the one who picked up the orb. I instantly delivered it, so I didn't have time to put the healing rain. This was a bad healing rain because we're about to get sent out of it. So as you can tell, do as I say, not as I do. This was a shitty healing rain. I should not have placed it because half of it is wasted. The entire raid moved out, and then we go back towards the middle of the arena. So Spirit Walker's Grace is really important here. Try to activate it as late as possible. If we go back, you'll see I activated it a bit early, a bit too early, and that means that after we do this, after I deliver the orb and we finish the intermission, so to speak, when we're moving back, I won't have Spirit Walker's Grace anymore. And when we're moving back, this is the critical part. This is the part where we need the most healing because the tanks are picking up new ads. They're getting hit from the new ads. Maybe one or two of the ads will melee someone else. We have a lot of debuffs rolling on the raid, so it's important to focus on healing during this phase. A really important part, as you may have noticed, we didn't dispel this heart rend. This heart rend that's incoming now, I may have skipped a bit of it. This heart rend at the end of the intermission, you do not want to dispel that. You keep it rolling on the raid, because if you dispel that, these people are dead. There's no way out of it. These people are dead. So you want to keep it rolling on the raid and then wait, because you're going to get it crystallize very soon into the second phase of the fight. So you're going to Spirit Link that crystallize anyway, so it makes sense to delay the heart rend, only dispel when you have the Spirit Link down for that crystallize number 6, and that way you don't have to really heal that heart rend. It's a nice way to let your healers breathe a bit. As you can see here, there's a Spirit Link, we're dispelling inside the Spirit Link, and everyone's perfectly fine. Maybe someone's going to drop a bit low, but everyone is fine. Again, pay very, very close attention to your raid frames, who's getting the debuff, what debuff they're getting as well, because the dot debuff that you get from Skirmishers or Wicked Blade doesn't do half as much damage as the one you get from the dispel of Heart Rend. So it's really important to pay attention to that. Again, this Goliath is such a piece of shit. This Goliath overlaps with this seismic upheaval. So of course, most of the time, this time we were lucky, we were able to push it fast, but most of the time this Goliath will stay alive during your upheaval. So you want to make sure the entire raid is topped off, no one has any dots ideally, and the tanks are topped, because the tanks are getting hit by the boss, and the tanks can't heal themselves during this phase, as you can tell. Our Demon Hunter tank usually takes a shit ton of damage during this phase. So ideally you want to top off your tanks, there we go, at this Goliath. We were lucky we killed it fast, but most of the time the Goliath would still be alive while we're doing this upheaval. So it's really, really important to watch the tanks before you get this Goliath down to 30%. Again, move back, same mechanics as in phase 1. This time we're adding the eruptions. People who soak the the eruptions, people who soak them will take a fair bit of damage, around 60 or 70% of their maximum HP, as a general rule of thumb, really. So, of course, you want to top them off before they get there. Maybe apply a Riptide if you want to, just to make sure they're going to be safe. But pay close attention to who is soaking and when the soaks happen, because these people need to be topped. Once they go into the circle, they'll take a small damage dot. Usually isn't that bad, but again, that's why you want to make sure they're topped before they get there. As you can see, our shaman friend is standing inside of it. If you pay attention to his HP bar, he moves early or fairly early and starts standing inside of it. See, he's taking for 2k before the eruption even happens. So again, make sure they're stacked for this soak. And then upheaval once more with the Goliath. You want to kill this Goliath before the upheaval, and this is when we activate our Spirit Walkers one more time and heal people on the way back. Again, you want to stack as fast as possible because these skirmishers will jump around to people. Same with the Goliath, might even jump around to you if he's still alive at that phase. But you want to stack up as fast as possible again. And yeah, then we get the crystallize once more. This phase, this second intermission, is scary. It's very, very scary because we're going to have a very silly Goliath that will drop down to 30% while we're meant to soak the seismic eruptions in a moment, as you will see here. This Goliath is a piece of shit. There is no other way to say this. But yeah, as long as you pay attention to your tanks, make sure the tank is topped before this Goliath goes down. Everyone is topped, ideally. Everyone who's about to go soak should be full HP. As you can tell, here's the soak and here's the anti-healing debuff. We had Rallying Cry, I believe, and Aura Mastery ready for this. As you can see, Ganza just used his. So we had 2 cooldowns ready for that intermission, for that silly overlap. And yeah, we lost a lot of pulls to that overlap, but once we got it rolling, we were fine. Again, make sure you give extra love, extra attention to people with the Wicked Blade debuff, with the bleed from the boss, and people who are gonna soak. So make sure you're tracking that somewhere on your screen. I'm tracking it up here. It's covering my DPS bar, but I'm also tracking it on the frames. I have a frame glow and I can see who's about to soak what. As you can see, this explosion, we missed a shield. There is no other way to say this. We missed one of the shields. I can't tell which one it was, but we were lucky because we had 3 shamans. And we had a healing tide totem running from one of the shamans as well. So we were lucky to survive that explosion. This was not meant to happen. But again, during this phase, during the intermission, the healing requirement isn't extremely high. It's just annoying to heal while dodging the bombardments, while also paying attention to the Goliath HP so you don't end up healing into the void when the Goliath is low HP. And yeah, on this phase, make sure you pay close attention to your tanks. Whoever is tanking the commandos is going to be taking a fair bit of damage, really, whichever tank is taking it. And then also make sure everyone is stopped for this soak. I think I popped my HTT here just to make sure everyone was safe. Yes, I did. And then they stack back up. So the healing is pretty much linear, really. There's not much you really need to pay attention to. Just make sure you heal people who have the dots, pay extra special attention to the heart rends, and other than that, just pay attention to your tanks, really. The rest of the raid will not be taking damage. This is really counterintuitive to say as a shaman, but believe it or not, healing rain is not that super important on this fight. Like, sure, healing rain is as important as always, but a lot of times you'll find yourself delaying that healing rain just to make sure someone with the debuff is alive and well, just to top some people off that are about to go soak. And that's perfectly fine, because most of the time that healing rain will be just overhealing anyways. So I know this sounds super counterintuitive to say, but spot healing is everything on this fight, even if it means fucking up your cloudburst sequencing, even if it means delaying your healing range just a bit. As long as you spot heal people who have the debuff, you will be fine throughout this fight. This is a very important soak. We're going to have one more soak, I believe, in the final phase. And we popped BL here. I'm just panicking to get the raid back up to full HP before this upheaval. And yeah, we pushed the ads just in time, killed them just in time to stack back up, and then just focus boss here. Again, this heart rend, I think you don't have to dispel it, but you should. If you have a cooldown running, feel free to dispel it. You have the bloodlust running, so the extra healing, you will get the little bit of extra healing through this throughout this bloodlust window, so it'll be fine if you want to dispel these heart rends. And then just focus boss. Just if the raid is healthy at this point, just focus the boss with your raid. If anyone needs a bit of attention, it's the same shit. It's the same shit we've had in phase 1 and phase 2. It's just the same in phase 3. The only added problem really is the upheaval and the soaks, because more people are soaking, so more damage will be taken by the raid as a result. During this, you can see I tried to make it to red. I died on the way. Our paladin tank did the sickest hero play I have ever seen. He used his Venthyr teleport to make it into the circle. I don't think he made it in time. I mean, according to logs, he didn't make it in time. But I still respect the fuck out of this hero play. This is amazing. This is a sick play. Anyways, yeah, you have to be really fast throughout this last phase, to be honest. If you miss a soak, it's just a wipe. We were lucky this time. I had Ankh, woke up, popped my Ancestor Protection Totem, and we had just enough damage to finish the fight and kill the boss. This fight is a piece of shit. This fight sucks to heal. Most of the time, the healing requirement is super low. Most of the time, you're just going to be hitting people that have the debuff on the frames. That's what you're going to be doing for 90% of this fight. For 10% of the fight, however, you have this. You have frames like this where everyone needs healing, everyone needs priority healing as fast as possible, and if you miss one, it's a wipe. So that's why we went with 5 healers, and that's why everyone, I think, goes with 5 healers anyways. Spot healing is everything on this fight. This isn't like Council where you just pop your healing rain down and cloudburst and just have fun. This is a fight really aimed more towards priest, I think, because I believe shields aren't affected by the soul taint from the Goliath. I could be wrong, but it's a bit more directed towards priests, maybe holy paladins as well. They would have fun on this fight, but shamans, it's okay, I guess. With Torrent, it makes Riptide a really strong spot heal. So I wish you guys good luck on this fight. It's a fucking piece of shit to progress, to kill. I hated every moment of it, and I thank God that I'm finally done with it.